The research reunites circus art, music, science, and society at large to face global environmental problems. Outcome will be presented through a multidisciplinary performance that will make use of biological materials and concepts to encourage the audience to think more green, more sustainable way. So, sub-question of today is, how can I inform my artistic decisions taking into account the societal perspective? Because this thing here, it's part of the society, your activity here in the garden. So, first question, what is the association about and what is its goal? The association you're part of.
Sorry. It's called Volkstuinvereniging de Zandweg. And it is a garden collective, which is part of a bigger collective of gardens in Rotterdam and also the Netherlands, I believe. That's the name.
What's the goal of it?
The goal of it is to, I would say there's several goals. And one of them is to, sorry, one minute.
Okay.
It's to, let's see, there's societal goals, I guess.
Yeah.
Between people from places in Rotterdam that don't have, like, houses that don't have gardens. So basically it provides access to green spaces for people that don't have this access in their normal houses. And thereby you get this community of all kinds of different people from different layers in the social layers basically that interact with each other and that work together to garden in multiple ways. It can be some people focus on flowers and other people grow vegetables, but it's all, everybody grows stuff and to take care of the green, and we also work together to take care of the park as a whole. Events are organized for the neighborhood, such as trading seeds, for example. There's kids activities, so there's all kinds of goals, I guess. But the overall, and there's lectures on biodiversity, for example. The gardening also creates more biodiversity in the city, obviously, because people, they have all kinds of different flowers. There's bees being kept.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there's like one overall goal. For me, personally, it is, I find a lot of peace working here, working with the soil, and the people that I invite here to share that. Yeah.
That answered my second question also, which was what is the impact? Just mention it, the biodiversity you bring in Rotterdam with all these activities.
Biodiversity and of course just more green spaces. If this wasn't here, it would probably be a parking lot or more houses for rich expats perhaps.
Yeah.
And now this the soil is being improved upon. People are learning about composting. I actually forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So it's also a place of learning things and sharing that knowledge. And I would also say that people become way more aware of what goes on in the process of growing like a vegetable. So the flavor from things you grow in the garden is so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Just come and get a garden here? Is it open to only a certain layer of society, or?
No, I would say, there's a certain rules. You have to live in Rotterdam, for example.
Yeah.
But all kinds of people, I think there's some type of selection, like somebody kind of come check out a garden, like a trial.
So as you said, there's a trial period and they want to see basically if the guy meets the requirements to stay here, if they match.
And of course there needs to be a house free.
Yeah. So how did you learn about this place?
So one of my good friends, he had this garden before me. And he was always into community gardening. And I joined him sometimes to the community gardens here in Rotterdam, which are a bit different concepts because there's no houses, so it's just a garden. And people come together like maybe twice a week. It's kind of open. in the sense that it's not like you sign up, you just go. Anyway, and he got this garden because he was really wanting to have one for a long time. And I started visiting him very often. And yeah, at one point I started thinking, I kind of jokingly said, like, if you ever go, I would love to take over this place. And then when he did go away, because he moved to the south of France, I got the opportunity to get this garden.
Wow, fabulous.
I was very lucky.
Yeah, so you learned a lot, I suppose, through this process. Tell me, why is gardening important to you?
Oh, man. For me, for one thing, the fact that I can... it's given me a lot of agency. Mm-hmm. So the feeling that I imagine something and then I can just go and do it. The practicality of it, that I actually make something with my hands. Mm-hmm. So to design, like, I don't know, for example, the compost place, or where I keep the wood, or how the vegetable beds are going to look. Then actually digging the holes, and that actual physicality of it, and having my hands in the mud, and being generally very muddy when I'm working, makes me really happy. It's kind of a childish feeling of joy that I had when I was a kid, and I'd make sandcastles. I kind of feel this feeling, but now it's planting flowers and well, whatever. There's so much that needs to be done. You're never done in the garden. There's always something to do. Whatever type of, well, in the winter of course it's a bit less, but whatever season, whatever the weather, I feel you can always keep busy, and I like keeping busy, and I like seeing things transform, and also of course when you plant something to just take care of it, and then, or sometimes you don't even need to take care of it so much, and it just expands itself. Sometimes so much that then you need to start taking care of, otherwise it takes over your garden. But yeah, there's just so many elements. But yeah, it gives me a lot of peace to be out here, to be outside so much as well, in all kinds of weather. And I didn't realize how much before I had this garden, I didn't realize that I really needed it. And now I can't imagine a life without gardening. Well, basically.
What a story. I think your connection, or at least our connection as humans to earth, to vegetables, to gardening, is because we are kind of made of the same things. But for example, I interviewed 2 scientists and they told me about the genes in the plants, which are basically very similar to the genes in the human body. Also, I read a study about grounding. If you do grounding, it can have anti-depression, anti-inflammatory properties.
Just lying on the ground.
Yeah, or walking barefoot.
I can totally
but you can,
imagine.
Yeah, but not just one day. You need to keep doing it, maybe for a summer or something, and then you can really feel the effects. So, yeah, I think.
Also, waking. Sometimes I sleep here, and I'm just waking up with living with the light as well. There's no electricity in the house, so I go to bed at a different time. I wake up at a different time. I have much more trust in my own idea of measurements.
Yes. Than your phone, maybe.
Yeah, like the time and distances. I do everything a bit by I just play it by ear. Yeah. And it's given me a lot of confidence in my own capacities, actually, and that's something really nice. And I do think, it's also teaching me a lot about myself somehow. Like if I see the resilience of plants and also of some pests like slugs. I'm like, wow, they don't give up. Neither should I. Yeah, and to see also that patience gets rewarded if you do a little bit every day. Like you literally see it. I find it sometimes difficult with other types of tasks that you don't really see the progress, but in a garden it's very visible.
Yeah, so it also helps with the mental health, I suppose.
Yes.
So you discover things that are already there, maybe in yourself, but being in the garden, you can reflect on them. So that's something valuable, I suppose.
Also being alone by myself without feeling alone.
Yeah, because you're surrounded by a garden.
I'm surrounded by a garden.
Yeah. Also with Talano next summer.
Yes, that will be a bit of a distraction. Very big stress.
So, what did you grow in your garden until now?
I've been growing simple things,
Mm-hmm.
mostly. Like beans and I managed one cabbage, but the rest was eaten by slugs. Also all the pumpkins, but the zucchini, courgettes, they grew really well.
Yeah.
I have a rhubarb that is still going strong. So this actually last summer was the first time I really grew things, because the summer before I had to get rid of a lot of stuff. So, and I had tomatoes, and I have fruit trees. And
You have an apple tree, right?
yeah, it's an apple tree. There's some figs, but it's not really mature. But the neighbors had some figs. We also share food among the neighbors, which is really nice. We have stuff left, or also seeds when they're over. So you kind of sometimes don't know what you're going to be growing beforehand. They might show up with, "Hey, I have this plant," and you're like, "Yeah, great."
Yeah, it's like back in the old days when they were doing this trade.
Yeah.
My grandparents were doing that.
Yeah, and people bring stuff from. I got some seeds, for example, from Italy, from the San Marzano tomatoes, and they did really well this last summer because it was such good weather.
Wow.
And yeah, some herbs actually.
Tell me a bit about your gardening workflow. What do you do in a usual day?
It really depends a lot.
So there's no usual day.
No,
every day is different, maybe.
I mean, I might say that there's also always going to be some weeding because, okay, in a usual day, because there's no usual day, but there's definitely, I have problems taking breaks. So I always keep on going, and I think, oh no, after this little thing, I'm just going to have some water. And then I do this other, like, oh, after this, I'm going to have some water. And I end up working for hours without a pause. Even when I'm like maybe very tired, there's always some light reading that I can do that doesn't take. It's also nice to take my mind of thoughts sometimes, so just to do some weeding. Usually, if I start one thing, like say sewing, I like to then to just do everything that I can. But I want to learn to do a little bit more spread the work, also physically, in order not to get more injuries.
Yeah.
I already did get an injury last.
What happened?
I was putting the tiles higher.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the path gets really wet when it rains. And I was also digging a lot to make this other path. And basically I was overextending my arms.
Yeah.
So I have 2 tennis elbows as a result of that. So that did teach me that I have to take care, taking better breaks, or doing actually a warm-up before I do physical work. But yes, it can be so different. Sometimes I'm building something, and then that will just take my attention, and sometimes it's more, also things like watering. If you have actually now, that takes quite some time, because I don't have really good access points currently. Like the hoses aren't long enough, and then I have to fill the buckets, and I have the rainwater collection as well. So I try to.
That's nice.
First use this.
So it's kind of time consuming to maintain it properly, the garden, right?
It's crazy. It seems like it's like I could make a full work week out of it in some days, yeah. Totally. And also sometimes at night I go hunt for snails, for example. It's like
that's a good skill to have. Talking about skills, probably before coming here you were not gardening that much, I suppose, or not at all?
I went sometimes to these community gardens, and then I was learning the basics about what is the difference between a weed and a carrot, for example. I would sometimes be like, oh yeah, I took out these weeds, and I was like, oh no, this we just planted. Oh, sorry. But much more than that, no. On my balcony, maybe some strawberry plant or some basil that would always die.
Yeah, so what new skills did you learn here?
I learned, I'm constantly learning something. Like how to prune a fruit tree. I wouldn't say I know now, but I'm like when. And also I learned that you shouldn't be afraid to cut into a plant. That's, if you know which plant it is that you're dealing with and when. Yeah. Because they grow back like 3 times as strong because of it. Sometimes you have to actually be fierce when you're pruning certain things, like this wisteria, for example, that I cut down a lot and then it just bloomed even bigger. I'm learning to plan better, so that if I want to do a certain thing, that I need to do other steps before.
Yeah.
Like with this seeds, for example, you're already in maybe December, January, thinking, oh, I need to order these seeds.
Yeah.
Because then they get in later, and I start. Then I can plant them, or like sow them, and then I can put them in bigger pots.
And you plant them in the spring, or?
That depends on the plant. So yeah, I'm learning about crop rotation, like which plants I should avoid putting next to each other or one year after the other, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to learn a bit about permaculture ideas as well, but not
to have different plants in the surrounding.
But I can't say I'm just taking bits and pieces from everywhere. I'm not like strictly adhering to one doctrine. I'm really, I guess a skill that I've been learning is to just trust my trust my judgment for now, anyhow, until to just get a feel for where the sun comes and that kind of stuff. You also just learn about the space, actually.
Yeah, very important. You learned more self-confidence. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quote from the website here. By sowing, planting, and harvesting together, not only plants grow, but also people and ideas. Do you feel enriched as a person when you go home after a day of working here?
Yes, of course I do.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel enriched also. Sometimes I don't work here. Sometimes I have a plan of working and my neighbor says, hey, Nina, do you want to have a cup of tea? As a Turkish neighbor. And he's always offering me cups of tea. And it's very nice. We don't understand each other very well. He's Dutch. He doesn't speak Dutch very well. But you just share being there. And that can also make me feel enriched in the sense that I shared some community. And I have met people that I wouldn't otherwise probably have spent time with.
Yeah.
Or met in any case.
So it makes you also more open.
It makes me more open. It makes me more appreciative. I'm much more like aware of things like the weather. Yeah, for sure. I'm much more seizing moments. I'm like, oh, this is a good day now. So I should do this and this and this. And of course, when you're physically exhausted, that makes you feel really well.
Yeah.
In a way, like, you really feel that you've done something. It's not like the mental headache of sitting the whole day behind your computer. And when we've worked together also, like maybe a spot in the garden, like in a general area where maybe it's ugly, maybe it's just a lot of weeds or not much at all. And then we spend a morning together, maybe we're 6 people, and it's completely transformed by the end of 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's so...
transcendental.
So nice.
Yeah. So you also make friends here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And also people that I bring here, they feel the space as well, and you get maybe different types of conversations.
Yeah.
When you're sitting and chilling, that you would have in a coffee bar. You can still drink coffee, but it's just I get also the quality of my other relationships with people is better. When they pass by and maybe we work together as well, and they I've had some people say like, wow, this is really like meditative, just doing this. Nina, you should export this idea and just have people come here and pay for
with the concert in the garden, as you mentioned.
That would be
that'd be lovely
next step. But I would love to I need to have some help here then also, because there's also what I'm learning, it's a humbling experience that sometimes I'm working for really hard on something and it's like a tiny corner of the garden.
Yeah.
It's more than 240 square meters, so I have a lot of plans and I can't do them all in the time frame that I thought that I might.
It makes us appreciative, as you said.
Yeah. And humbling.
Yeah, I was reading about climate change and how to fight it, and I read something interesting. Growing your own food is a great way to fight that, because the plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere in the photosynthesis process. It also means that you cut down on the release of emissions into the environment because you don't have vehicles delivering food to you. So that's really cool. Did you consider growing your own food in the long term?
Definitely. I would, I don't think I'd be completely self-sufficient, and also in order to, for example, grow enough potatoes,
No.
you'd need to have
Really work hard.
bigger, and a bigger plot of land.
Probably, but at least to some extent to be more
For sure.
self-reliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to also eat more varied.
Yes, we need that.
I'm ordering also more local, like ancient Dutch varieties. It's really nice. Find out that things exist that you have never dreamed of, because you only see one shape of everything in this, or not even everything in the store.
No.
And then it's like, oh, you go to the seed shop and there's like 100 different courgettes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's good to buy local seeds because somehow your body likes more local food because of the environmental thing
I can see,
during the ancestry thing. Or
also, I don't know, maybe if I were to go on a holiday, I like different foods because the food of here doesn't fit so well with the place I'm then in. Like I love peanut butter, but whenever I go somewhere else, I never miss peanut butter because it just doesn't fit with the climate.
No.
But actually another thing that might be good in a way. I will go on fewer holidays because I have this garden now. So there's going to be way fewer trips because I can't be here. And I like it so much to be here that I don't need to go to the Spanish coast.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, a bigger impact in my personal case.
Yeah. It's interesting. You also mentioned eating more varied. The microbiome in our gut actually likes to eat, to have as much diversity as possible in the food. So, for example, in a day, if you eat broccoli and mint and celery and carrot, then it's very happy for your body. But if you just eat carrot every day, then the good bacteria die away.
Yeah, they get taken over by some other species.
Yes, so you just need to keep rolling and rolling.
Well, because I like to experiment, and I'm when I'm ordering seeds, I'm always like, oh, this looks cool, this looks cool, this looks cool. I get like a little bit of everything. Of course, some experiments don't work.
Yeah.
Sometimes my tomatoes, like the first year, all my tomatoes got eaten day one by little bugs. Not the tomatoes, the plants themselves, actually. But yeah, that works. And I find out also there's a lot of things just growing that I didn't plant, and I check what they are, and often they're edible, and to some extent anyway. You can add like a little bit to a salad to spice it up.
Yeah.
And some things I don't find as tasty of these homegrown varieties actually, but I still eat it and appreciate it more than something I would have bought from the store because I grew it myself. So the effect of the work gets into the.
Yeah, and you get better year by year, so it's fine.
And maybe my appreciation for flavors like bitters also will develop.
Yeah, probably.
By more exposure.
Yes. Tell me, is the concept of recycling used here in any way? In the garden or at all in general?
That's a difficult one. Like, so here now, since that Rotterdam has changed its concept of how they recycle waste, there's no more separate collection of, say, plastics and other things. And I am therefore also not doing this in the garden now. Also because I don't have actually I normally take the trash bag from here, which fills very slowly, to just a general trash bag in order not to have it be processed by the garbage.
But
here.
I'm talking about any kind of recycling. Could be like using something in the kitchen.
The organics, for example, I put in the compost. There is a compost.
Yeah,
so
this is what I mean also.
I do this type of stuff, but not really things like... I do... If I buy, for example, some potting, like a good soil enhancer, I use maybe the bag in order to put in potatoes. I tried that out. Like, I try to reuse like also materials and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't serve for everything. And I would want to improve my game, so to speak. But I must say that there being so much to do, I don't always do it. The things that I would like to do, that being.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Let's see.
And for the rest, people trade here. Like if there's something they're not using anymore, you might bring maybe a neighbor has use for it. Type of recycling.
How about using organic waste as nutrient for the crops?
Yes. So in the compost we do that.
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah, and I'm also in the compost team so there's like special work teams in this in the association, and I'm in the compost team. So we come together to work the compost, and at one point it turns into really fine material that is spread out over the vegetable beds.
Yeah.
And then you have some really, I would like to say organic, but I don't know exactly what is going on. Of course, in every single leaf that ends up in the compost plant, but yeah.
So you don't use pesticides or stuff like that?
I don't. And I don't think it's definitely not encouraged here.
No.
So it might even be forbidden.
Because you can do it without, as I see from what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean if you plant properly, but I'm sure that. I mean, I can't speak for all my neighbors.
No,
of course.
just for you.
But for me, yes, I do everything. I don't use pesticides.
Wow, so everything you grow here is very premium organic, no?
In that sense, but but for example, the soil that it's grown in.
It's a bit treated, eh?
Yeah, the soil that was already here. I haven't done a soil analysis. I don't know exactly what is in there. The soil that I've used is a mix of things that were super organic with things that were there with and a little bit of the compost. So I don't know. I haven't analyzed it.
Yeah.
But the flavor is really good. That has to be.
Great. So.
Not of the soil, but of the.
Thank you so much for joining the interview, for the valuable pieces of information that you shared with me. I wish you success with your garden. Keep us posted, and maybe we do the concerts here.
That would be nice.
That'd be cool.
You can also welcome to help.
Sure, no problem.